The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, on behalf of Sigma-HSE, thank you for joining us for our webinar today. We want to give everyone an opportunity to jump into the session, so we will get started in about 2 minutes. Hello again, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on risk assessments, a life cycle approach to process safety. I am Mark Yukich, U.S. Technical Development Manager at Sigma-HSE, and I will be your host today. I have approximately 10 years of process safety industry experience. That experience includes combustible dust, flammable vapors, and chemical reaction hazards, and steps to mitigate those hazardous materials while in process. We'd like to take the time to understand your pain points for each of our customers related to process safety. If we don't have the option to assist, we want to ensure we hand you off to a team we trust to bring value to your safety team. Please feel free to contact me should you ever need any assistance. Sigma-HSE is a global engineering firm with technical experts supporting companies around the world by providing actionable solutions to protect, enhance, and optimize their process. Our goal is to allow your team to focus on what really matters: protection for your people, business, workplace, and the environment. In this webinar, we will discuss risk assessments for PSM that are used to identify hazards, evaluate their impact, and guide safeguards across design and operation. We will have time for Q&A at the end of the session. Feel free to add those questions to the questions section during the training, and we will address those questions at the end of our program. Doug Gruder will be our process safety consultant leading our discussion today. Doug, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome, everybody, to this webinar. As you can see on the screen, I have pretty extensive experience in the manufacturing facilities, including some time at Exxon Chemical and at CP Kelco. During my tenure in those places, I've worked in process operations, process control, and more pertinent to this discussion, process safety, including completing a number of studies, as you can see here. This presentation will outline risk assessments during each stage of a process in a PSM facility. We will go from early stage evaluations to design phase evaluations, and then a pre-commissioning, pre-startup safety review. After the process or unit operation is started up, we will go through what is required for management of change, 5-year revalidations, and incident investigations. What this presentation will not cover are dust hazard analysis, HAZOPs, facility siting or occupied building risk assessments, but Sigma can complete these if it is needed at your facility. The different stages of process hazard analysis, of which there are many types, starts out at the conceptual phase of the project, where a preliminary risk assessment, a basis of safety study or hazard, should be performed to outline the risks you will be facing. Then we go into the design phase evaluation, which will include HAZOP, a HAZOP, or a combined HAZOP-LOPA, and a facility siting or an occupied building risk assessment. After the construction of the project is nearing completion, we will do a pre-startup safety review to ensure that all of the recommendations in the previous 2 stages have been completed and are in place. Any changes during the pre-startup safety review should be handled under a management of change. And then post-commissioning, the ongoing evaluations that are required are 5-year revalidations, management of change for any changes that are not a like-kind replacement, and incident investigations. And the cycle goes on from there, where during the 5-year revalidations, you will be reviewing any management of change documentation or incident investigations, and they will be incorporated into the revalidations. So let's start at the beginning with a preliminary risk assessment. This is a screening tool used to determine any big roadblocks or concerns that will need to be addressed, and thus add costs to the project. So it's completed at the very start of the expansion. It covers fire, explosion, chemical reaction and release, environmental concerns, inventory, shipping, noise, and also looks at any impacts it will have to facilities around the site, such as schools and daycare centers. This is conducted at the concept stage of a project and is often used as a go, no-go. So what you'll see is that in each stage of these risk assessments, different levels of process safety information will be required. For the preliminary risk assessment, you'll need to know something about the site, its topography, windrows data, chemical inventory shipments, and then a number of hazard identification questions are asked, and they roll up into a preliminary risk screening. Okay, after this, the project moves along, and we do a basis of safety study, which is an equipment-based study completed in the early stage design, but before you request any money. Okay, and it covers fire explosion, again, chemical release and reactions. The intent here is to capture 90% of the safeguards required before you request funding. And this is so you can request the funding needed for any process safety concerns that come up. It's used to move the project into an acceptable range of the company's risk criteria. It's conducted in the early design phase while the process safety information is being developed and when the process flow diagrams are available. Some of the process safety information required for a basis of safety study at this stage are the process flow diagrams, materials of construction, relief system, and ventilation. The more information that you have at this stage of the project, the closer your estimate will be to request enough funding to complete the project. After the process safety information is put together, you will also be developing a list of additional process safety information that you will need for the next stage, which is a HAZOP and LOPA, or a combined HAZOP-LOPA. This is completed following the detailed design. After the car is approved, and it's a detailed line by line, vessel by vessel safety study. It identifies the detailed design safeguards and, more importantly, ensures that they are independent layers of protection so that credit can be taken for them. That is, they are not subject to common cause failure. At this point in the project, we should be pretty close to getting to the company's acceptable risk criteria. And if we're not there, we will add additional safeguards as needed. We conduct the HAZOP after the detailed design is completed, but before the pre-startup safety review. So now we are we're in the construction phase of the project, and P&IDs must be available to complete the HAZOP. You'll see on the next slide the process safety information required, P&IDs, materials of construction, hazardous area classifications, relief systems, ventilation, usually important in flammable atmospheres, and safety systems, such as basic process control system, loops, any interlocks that are either in the BPCS or in a safety instrumented system, and the alarms. After this, construction takes place, and before commissioning, a pre-startup safety review is completed. This is the last safety review before commissioning. And what we need to do is to ensure that the equipment is installed in accordance with design specifications, that the operating procedures are in place and the employees are trained. And very important is that the analysis from previous PHAs, being the preliminary risk assessment, basis of safety study, and the HAZOP, have been implemented or resolved. So the purpose is to ensure that the project meets all of the applicable safety, health, and environmental regulations. This is conducted when the equipment is installed and before commissioning. Process safety information needed for a PSSR is pretty much everything up to this point. P&IDs, the chemicals, operating and training, emergency and contingency plans, any management of change, PHA recommendations, permit reviews, and any additional perceived risks that are picked up during the field walk. Typically, this involves a checklist, and Sigma-HSE has a number of different checklists that are used depending on the scope and risk of the process. So now your new process is in operation. Everything's running along, but we're still not done after this. The ongoing studies post-commissioning required are a 5-year revalidation, any management of change that takes place, any incident or event investigations. Typically, insurance companies will ask for an audit, and a facility siting needs to be revalidated during the PHA 5-year revalidation. The post-commissioning studies are completed every 5 years after commissioning and involve management of change, incident investigations, and insurance audits. All 4 of these should roll up into the 5-year revalidation. So for the life cycle of a PSM plant, you'll notice that each stage requires a different type of PHA. The type of PHA going through the life cycle gets more and more detailed. And in addition, more and more process safety information is needed. Any gaps may result in hazards and harm to people, environment, or monetary losses for the company. At Sigma, we can support your PHAs throughout the life cycle of your project. We have over 25 years of experience doing this with a proven track record. We take a pragmatic approach to identify and mitigating risks, and we use customized methodologies to ensure your PHA is cost effective. We are a goal-oriented company in our approach, and our strategies can be modified to meet your compliance and safety needs. Not covered in this webinar, but Sigma can also support your dust hazard analysis, hazards, facility siting, and hazardous area classification studies. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark for any questions.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to add those to the question section on the right, and we can get you an answer. First question, Doug, it looks like why not just stop the PHAs after the PRA hazard or BOSS?
Yeah, the answer, that's a good question, and there may be some temptation to do that. But at these early stages of the PHA life cycle, you're not going to have all the process safety information that is required for a good study. Therefore, you will not be identifying all the risks and putting mitigations in place to control those risks. And that can lead to injuries, environmental insults, or monetary losses after the project is commissioned.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Another one here is why not just jump to the HAZOP and eliminate previous studies?
Yeah, the answer to that, Mark, would be that the amount of capital money that may have been requested may not be sufficient to get to the company's required risk criteria. So that usually leads to a proposal rewrite, and with the increased funds needed to complete the project. And no project engineer wants to be in that place where you have to go back and ask for more money.
All right, thank you. Let's see, another one here is why is it important to document management of change and incident investigations?
That's a good question. First of all, the management of change is a review of any changes to ensure that the basis of safety study recommendations are not being violated. So part of the reason for the management of change is to ensure that the basis of safety of your unit operation is maintained. The incident investigations, we want to learn why things happen, keeping in mind that all incident investigation root causes are a management system failure. If you fix the management system failure, the event or incident will be unlikely to happen again. Also, both of these, the management of change and incident investigations, will need to be incorporated into the 5-year revalidation.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Another one here is at the beginning of the webinar, you had said that DHA, HAZOP, OBRA will not be covered, and can Sigma provide those services?
Yes, absolutely. Sigma has the knowledge base and the experience to do all of these studies, and we would like to hear from you if you need them. What I wanted to show here next, Mark, is we have a number of free webinars that are available on demand. If you go to our website, which is the hyperlink brings you to, you'll see that we have one on basis of safety study. It goes into more depth, differing methods of PHA, facility siting, pre-startup safety review, audits, incident investigations, and management change. So all these things can be looked at for free on our Sigma-HSE website.
Thanks, Doug. One other question that popped in is BOSS defined in any standard or guideline?
No, it's not. It's a progressive PHA study that allows you to get into or near to the company's acceptable risk criteria. It's not required, okay, but it does help progressively throughout the PHA life cycle.
All right, thank you. Looks like from here, I think we covered all those questions. Want to take once again thank everyone for joining us today, covering risk assessments. Should you need any assistance with testing and/or process safety support, you can always feel free to contact us at info-us@sigma-hse.com. We look forward to being a resource to you, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and I'd also like to thank all the attendees for taking the time to listen to and attend this presentation. As Mark said, we look forward to meeting all of your process safety needs. Contact us, bounce things off of us, and we'll be there to answer your questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you.